dear audience and dear colleagues, let me introduce my 18 months progress report. My PhD topic is the investigation of techniques and materials in pulp therapy. My name is Péter Komora. I'm a second-year PhD student and a clinical specialist at the Department of Restorative Dentistry and Endodontics. My vision is the minimal invasive endodontics, and my mission is to reduce the invasiveness in endodontics through evidence-based science. To fulfill my mission, we are working on two ongoing projects. Both of them are systematic review and meta-analysis. Some words about the first project is the comparing the efficacy of bioactive materials in pulp therapy. It is a systematic review and a network meta-analysis. So some words about the background of the topic. So the root canal treatment is an invasive treatment option, and its result in loss of tooth vitality. After the literature, we could calculate with a quite good success rate, but really important to emphasize that a failed root canal treatment could end up in tooth loss. The pulp therapy treatment aimed to preserve the pulp vitality in order to avoid the root canal treatment. The MTA, is the mineral trioxide aggregate, is the gold standard material for pulp therapy. But in the last 10-15 years, newer materials came to the market with less drawbacks to MTA, and these materials are easier to handle, and they are lower cost alternatives to the MTA. So our aim is to compare the bioactive materials in pulp therapy. Therefore, a question emerged. A clinical question: is there a difference in efficacy of different bioactive materials to MTA in pulp therapy in permanent teeth? So we conducted the PICO framework, and you could see that our population is the permanent teeth with pulp therapy. The intervention and the comparator group are the same, so we are included the bioactive materials, and the outcome is the success rate of the treatment after 6 months, 12 months, and 24 months. We hypothesized that the newer bioactive materials are at least efficient in preserving pulp vitality than the MTA. So we conducted our systematic search in 4 different databases with the following search key, and after the selection, we had 14 eligible articles. And let's see our data. Very important to emphasize that the measure of effect is the odds ratio with 95% confidence interval. On the first slide, you could see the 6 months results. First is the network plot. Here you could see the materials, the investigated materials. The orange circles represent every materials, and the size of this circle represents the number of teeth which were treated with this type of material. The gray lines between the materials represent the direct comparisons, and the number of the green lines represent the number of studies where this direct comparisons was made. On the second slide, you could see the outcome forest plot and the p-score. On the outcome forest plot, all materials are compared to the MTA. You could see the vertical line, it's the value 1. If the odds ratio is 1, there is no difference between the two materials. If the value is lower than 1, this material works better in the clinical performance, and if the number is above 1, it means that these material are working worse in a clinical environment. And here you could see that we don't have too many significant results, but in case of calcium hydroxide and the light curing calcium hydroxide, we have already significant results. But much more interesting for us, the p-score. It represents a ranking between the materials. Theoretically, the p-score is a probability that this material is in the proper place of the ranking, and here you could see that the MTA is already on the first place. Let's see the 12 months results. Here you could see also the network and the included materials. Here on the outcome forest plot, you could see that the MTA is already the best material, and after the p-score, we could see that also. And here we have already significant results in case of Terracal, else it's also light curing material, and in both calcium hydroxide group. And let's see the 24 months results. Here you could see that, that the confidence intervals are not so wide, and here also the MTA is on the first place, and there is no significant result between the MTA and the biodentin. In the case of tercalicy and the 2 calcium hydroxide group, we have significant result. And really important to emphasize that this the CEM material is the calcium-enriched material. There is really wide confidence interval, and the reason is that there was just one study where this material was compared, and just with the MTA. So here we have a lot of indirect results as well. The strengths of our study, we included just randomized clinical trials, and in these trials there was a really high sample size, and we used an integrated method for the success rate calculation, and of course it's a network meta-analysis. Of course we have some limitations. Not every arm is strong in the network, like the CEM material, and there are comparisons with only one study, like in case of CEM as well. And our conclusion, that the MTA is the most effective material for white pulp therapy at 6, 12, and 24 months respectively, but the biodentin could be a suitable alternative to MTA. And our implication for the practice that the biodentin could be a good alternative of MTA in white pulp therapy treatment. The 6 months follow-up is not enough to evaluate the success of the white pulp therapy treatment, because you could see that there we don't have too many significant results. And the last one, we don't recommend the calcium hydroxide to use for white pulp therapy. We have some implications for the research. The results of clinical trials need to publish after 6, 12, 24 months respectively. Of course, we need more randomized clinical trials to evaluate the efficacy of the novel calcium silicate materials and the calcium silicate sealers. And the demographic data need also to publish in these articles. So here you could see our manuscript status. We submitted in the International Endodontic Journal in the beginning of October 2023. And after that, we got a rejection, but we got an email from the chief editor, and the last sentence is important for us, that there are some methodological issues, and if we could answer these issues, we have an option for a resubmission in the same paper, and our aim is to rewrite the article and try to submit in the same paper. Some words about the second topic is comparing the root canal filling quality of calcium silicate based sealers. This is also a systematic review and the meta-analysis of in vitro studies. Here also some words about the background. As previously I mentioned that in particular pulpal and periapical prosthesis, the only option is the root canal treatment to save the tooth. And it's a crucial step in root canal therapy is to maintain a well-sealed root canal system. The H+, it's the epoxy amine resin. It's the gold standard material for sealing the root canal system. But the root canal filling procedure could be less complicated with new calcium silicate-based sealers, and these materials have some promising biological benefits. So our aim is to compare the different sealers and techniques in root canal fillings. Our clinical question is, there a difference in root canal filling quality of different calcium silicate-based sealers to H+. Our population is the permanent matrix-extracted teeth and artificial teeth. The first group is the calcium silicate-based sealers with single comb technique, and the comparator is the H+ with lateral compaction technique. And our outcome is the quality of the root canal filling, and we hypothesized that the root canal filling with new calcium silicate-based sealer are similar than with the H+. Here you could see our systematic search key, and we are in the selection process because the main focus was on the first project. Here you could see the overview of the 2 ongoing projects, and I would like to thank for your attention. With the quote, we chose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. And thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much for your excellent presentation. I saw that calcium hydroxide was the worst based on your results. I want to ask you, what do you use in your clinical practice? Do you use MTA or biodentin?
In our clinical practice, we are using the MTA, but there is some drawbacks. It's not so easy to handle this material, and the setting time is a bit longer, so it's a bit complicated to applicate in the proper place. After that, you have to cover with other type of materials to save this material till the setting process, so it's a bit complicated. And there is another thing that there's a tendency that this material could discolor the teeth, so it could be also a disadvantage. For example, if you are using in the anterior teeth, it's not so good results if it's discolored to gray or blackish color. So therefore, we are looking for the alternatives. And for example, in case of biodentin, it's a bit easier to applicate, and there's not so high tendency to discolor the teeth.
And is there still some places using calcium hydroxide, for example?
After our results, we don't recommend to use the calcium hydroxide. So honestly, in the last 5 years, I never used calcium hydroxide. So when I graduated, we used, but our clinical experience was really poor with this type of material. So we don't recommend it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
That actually gives me a follow-up question.
Yes.
Are there cost differences between these materials? So is that the reason that there are still people using this calcium?
Honestly, the biodentin is not so cheaper, but the cost is a bit less than the MTA. But really important to emphasize that nowadays a lot of new MTA materials came to the market because it was invented in the middle of the 90s. And there was a 15 or 20 years of patent for this material, but after that a lot of new companies are coming and they are producing these materials. But we don't really have enough data comparing with the basic MTA. And most of the studies are using the original type of MTA, and it's a really expensive type of MTA. And if we are comparing with this material, the biodentin is a better alternative regarding the cost. Yes.
Did any of the papers address this as well, or?
Sorry?
Did any of the papers that you looked at address this question at all, the cost differences?
Not mostly on the clinical success. So most of the paper are focusing on the clinical success, and maybe in the introduction or in the discussion you could see some words about this part.
Congratulations. I think there is a new generation of material, maybe I don't know, it's called bioceramics, which may be used as vital pulp therapy material. And my second question is that if MTA is to be used, like, can you directly put a direct filling on it on the same day, maybe waiting for 24 hours till complete setting? So what is your technique?
That's another problem. As I mentioned previously, you have to cover it, and our clinical practice is that we are covering with another type of cement, with glass ionomer cement, and after that, it's possible to make a definitive restoration. But some clinicians recommend to put some water-containing pellet on the MTA, then the temporary, and after that you have to call back the patient, and after that you could make the definitive restoration. So therefore it's a bit complicated, the clinical application and the clinical steps for that. And you mentioned the bioceramic materials. Technically, the MTA is also a bioceramic material. It's a bit confusing in the literature because it's a quite new type of materials, and as I mentioned in the implication, in the scientific implication, that nowadays there are newer bioceramic-based sealers which you could inject on the vital pulp. But there are not too many information about it. But it could be also a good direction. But the problem with the bioceramic sealers that most of them are containing resin-based components as well, and these are hydrophobic, and the cytotoxicity is a question. But the direction is good. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your presentation. My question would be that vital pulp therapy is a kind of broad category, else it has a few treatment options. So my question is, in your articles, did they do the same level of treatment as regarding the level of pulpal damage, or there was a heterogeneity regarding this?
So it's a really good question, because it was the question of the third reviewer as well. But the problem is that we try to make subgrouping after the different treatment types. And just in case of direct pulp therapy, we had enough articles to make subgrouping. So that's a limitation, and that's the reason why we put together every type of treatment. But of course, it was addressed to us, and we try to give a good answer for that.